What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben, and welcome back to the bench for another episode of our Rivals and Adversaries Phase 2 MiG-15 by Trumpeter. Today we're going to go ahead and push on with the cockpit, finish that up, and see what other troubles we can get into. So last time I worked a lot on the cockpit. We added in wires, we added in details and plastic parts and the whole works, and so I think this is actually looking pretty decent. It's all primed, ready for paint and for photo etch, so that's where we're going to go ahead and start. But I gotta tell you, the photo etch set that I have from Edward, the coloring just seems way off. And I've actually heard that that is not uncommon for photo etch detail sets to just have the wrong color altogether, and this is what we have here. So we're gonna have to go ahead and see what we can do, and we're gonna make it work. That's the goal, at least. So we're gonna go ahead and start off with our paint, and I have the mission models cockpit color for Soviet aircraft. As you will notice that this color does not match the photo etch, so we're gonna have to go ahead and paint those parts of the photo etch with the same blue-gray color. I don't know how that's gonna work, but we're gonna try it. So first off, we're gonna jump in there, we're gonna paint up the cockpit, we're gonna add in some highlights, we're gonna mask off our canopies, we're gonna start installing that PE set. Then we're going to work on the instrument panels. We're going to get some painting and blending of different PE colors all set up. Add in some seat belts, work on that seat. We've got a lot of work to do. So I'm thinking let's roll into that first time lapse. Let's get this party started. Let's see what we can do with our paint, our photo etch. Let's get this MiG started for today. All right, everybody, we are back, and that was a very long time on the bench, but as you can see, we have our cockpit more or less finished up. Even though it was a really, really difficult time getting to this point, I'm actually very happy with what we've turned out. Let's go ahead and zoom in here for you, and I can show you some of the details. As you can see, the cockpit color isn't really correct. It's way more blue than it should be. It should actually be a bit more gray, but I had to match it with what we had here in the photo etch, and even then, I was actually having to go back in and painting each of those photo etch parts to kind of bring that color closer to my paint. Even closer inspection, you can see I've got the wires in there, I've got the different parts and panels painted up. I like how it looks. I just wish that the photo etch had been the correct color. Then I could have matched the rest of the cockpit to that and I would have been good to go. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But even so, I had a lot of fun working on this cockpit, and I think the photo etch does add quite a bit of detail. Got our seat belts in there, we got our ejection seats sitting there right now. So I'm happy with it. I think it looks pretty decent considering the photo etch was the wrong color, the paint wasn't the right color, and the part fit on this kit isn't always the best. But I'm pretty happy with it, so let's just go ahead and set this aside and move on with the rest of the aircraft. Now, rolling on with the rest of the part fit here, guys, we're going to focus on that front nose assembly, and we're going to see what we can do to get that looking a bit more like a MiG. First thing, we have to go ahead and make sure that we test fit clean, we sand, we test fit again, because if we don't, every single part here has a little bit of flash on it, and that's going to completely throw our entire alignment just out of whack. And I don't really want to have to do more work than this kit's already going to take. So I'm going to be real careful here. We're going to go part by part. We're going to clean it up. We're going to test fit it. We're going to then clean up even more, then glue it all together and see what we can do. Let's go ahead and jump into this front nose. I want to really focus on trying to minimize any steps. I want to try to go ahead and minimize any gaps, but I have a feeling that's going to be very difficult to do, but we're going to try it, guys. Let's get back into that time lapse. Let's work on that front nose, see what we can do, clean up some panels, get the cockpit all nicely glued inside, and fingers crossed, this goes together well, and we can move on next episode with cleanup. Let's keep it rolling. All right, everybody, here we go. As you can see, the front nose is together. We left out a couple of parts here and there, but we did install the cockpit, so that is good to go. We have enough room on the inside to start pouring in some BBs to kick this thing forward. We've got our front intake lip on as well, and then you rotate it over to the underside, and as you can see, there is a giant gap down here. And that is actually a little bit more by design because the entire panel for the guns would not fit where it was supposed to go. So I had to actually cut that panel off to eliminate the seam on the outside of the gun port and hopefully to hide the seam on the inside. As you can see, we can drop an entire piece of styrene in here to go ahead and close up that gap. So I don't think it's going to be too bad, but oh boy, we're going to have a lot of filling to do, but we have our gun panels in. You can see the opening for the 37 and then the 223s. So that's looking okay. We will have to come in though and do a lot of filing and sanding, but that is kind of expected with this kit. Now I also went ahead and moved over to the back tail for a little bit just to kind of test fit some parts. And I want to show you what we've come up with here. As you can see, the rudder just plugs right into the tail. That's not really a problem. That should glue up nicely. But the real trouble comes when we actually try to install the air brake module right here on the bottom of the aircraft. This does not really want to fit very well. Kind of par for the course, but if you line up the left side, the right side is slightly off. If you line up the right side, the left side is slightly off. So we're going to have to try to find a nice mid-ground, sand some things down, glue some things in. But once we kind of get this faired in, I think it'll look okay. We also have to figure out what we're going to do with the air brake hinges to get that looking a little bit better. And of course, glue in the tailpipe and all of that good stuff. So we've got some work cut out for us here as well. But again, that's kind of to be expected. Now, when you move over to install the front part of the fuselage onto the tail, again, we are met with the exact same issues. If you line up the right side of the aircraft, the left side is all out of whack. You line up the left side, the right side is out as well. So we're going to have to really make sure that we can get everything kind of lined up as best as we can, because this is not going to be very easy to get this together. I'm actually kind of considering maybe doing different halves instead of one tail unit, because I want to minimize any sort of gap from front to back, but also any sort of seams from right to left. Now, as I mentioned before, I left out the equipment there in front of the cockpit, and that's purely because I want to use that position to add in some nose weight. This is going to be a bit of a tail dragger, so I want to make sure that I've got enough weight here forward of the landing gears to kick this thing up to stay on its 3 gears. But I think this is going to be a great place to start, and it's going to give us a backing for this cover, because this cover does not want to fit normally. So this way is going to give a little bit more stability, and I think we should be good to go. But we'll go ahead and work on that next episode. I want to go ahead and call it quits for today. We've done a lot of work here on the front, got the cockpit looking good. We even have a plan for this rear tail section, and especially for the air brakes. These are going to be a little bit more work than I want, but you know what? We're going to push on. We're going to see what we can do. We're going to get this thing looking as good as we can. Not going to be perfect here, guys, but you know what? It's still going to be a MiG-15, and we're just going to have fun and keep pressing on. So until our next episode, guys, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool. Make sure to go over to Joe's channel, check out his saber. His saber is looking awesome, and we'll see you back here on episode number 4 of Rivals and Adversaries. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.